Hey everyone, it's Ashley with Chica here on YouTube. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thanks for joining me. This is the start of a whole series related to starting your own small business. So this is something I've talked to a lot of different people, especially crafters who are excited to start their own business and they don't know where to start. So this whole series will cover all the information that you need to know to start your own small business, as well as questions that you're going to run into as you go along. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future content. You guys gave me such wonderful feedback in my last business related video, and I was told that a lot of you were taking notes and you had pages of notes and you thought it was really helpful. So I wanted to make this step easier for you guys. So I created a little guide to get started. This is for this video specifically. So this is called Business Questions to Ask Yourself, and this is a black and white version, but there's a color version. So check out the links in the description box. It'll take you straight to the information for this. So while you're going along with this video, you can download it, you can take notes, and we're going to go through step by step and talk about all of this. If you need to pause the video and do that, feel free to do that. The whole goal is to make this as easy for you to fill out and have as a reference guide. So my goal for this video is to break this down into actionable steps for you guys, so that way you can take this information and reference it later as you're going along with your business. Some of this information will stay pertinent to you throughout the whole time, and some of it you may change as you go along. So this is a great way to really narrow down what it is that you have questions on, what you want your business to be, who you are, all of those things that are related to just the very beginning of your business. So let's talk about the building blocks for your business. We're going to be talking about something that is often discussed. If you read about starting a small business, you'll hear about this. We're going to talk about the mission, values, and vision for your business. So if you've ever taken a business class, you might find this to be the boring part, but really this part is super key to having a kind of a plan for your own success. This is really about understanding who you are as a business, what you do, what's important to you, and where you want to go. So this is really, really important and necessary. I'm going to give you guys an example from my own small business. As you guys know, I have a YouTube channel, I also have a blog, and I have a Facebook group as well. And one thing that comes with that is a lot of hours. You spend a lot of hours planning, editing, filming, working on things step by step, and it can be kind of overwhelming at times. And there's been times, especially when I was producing my series for December, that I was producing 20 videos in December, and it was really overwhelming to make so many videos at the same time. So when I was doing that, I was kind of like, okay, why am I doing this? What is this? What's the key here for me? What's important to me? And I went back to my own mission, values, and vision that I had created for my own business, and I really thought about it, and it was really about providing value to people who don't really know what to do with Cricut machines, trying to get people interested in being creative and empowering them and giving them the tools and the vision and the skills to create and have beautiful things. So that really brought me back to the place of being able to be creative and be successful in what I'm doing. So this is why this is important, is you will use this throughout your journey of your business, from the beginning all the way through to the end. So even businesses that are super successful, and we'll talk about it later in the series, even businesses that are super successful such as Amazon, Nike, all of those places, they still use this as if it is day one. So they're always worried about really honing in on the vision that they have to continue. So let's talk about the building blocks that you'll need. So we're going to talk about the mission. The first thing that you want to think about for your mission, the mission is the statement, reason behind your business. We're going to talk about, this is the why of why your business is here. It's also talking about the goals. So if you're thinking about your mission is really all about where you are right now, what do you want to be accomplishing, and what's the purpose behind your business. So why is a mission statement important? It's because it defines your goals and it keeps all of your decisions on brand. So that way, every time that you're making a decision, you can say, hey, does this fit with what I want to achieve and what I'm trying to accomplish here? And if it doesn't, push it out of the way. It saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you energy. So all of those things are really, really important. It also helps people to connect with you. I think this is really important. If you are running a small business, you have to think about what it is that you're providing for value for the people who are joining your business. So say you sell pottery, you hand make pottery as a craft business. What is it that's important to you to connect with your customer there? So are you all about providing a fine quality item at a reasonable price point? Are you all about creating something that's unique and beautiful and each piece is completely different? Having that in your mission statement makes it easier for your customers to connect to you. It helps your employees down the line to understand why the business was started. So it's not just about where you're at currently, that's also going to be where you're at later on, because eventually if your small business is successful, you may end up having extra employees and having people help you, and they may not understand where you got started from. So that's why it's important to have a mission statement. It's the driver behind where you're going. Think of it as kind of the car. You have your destination that you're trying to go to. You have your car. Your car is your mission, and it's going to carry you along the path. So some examples of this are, say something like Amazon. Amazon's mission statement is to be Earth's most customer-centric company where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. So I think that they're very good at finding that and honing in on that for their mission statement, because it really is one of the largest places to find things online that you want to purchase. So let's talk about values. So as we were talking about, if you're on a mission, say you're in a car and you're traveling from point A to point B being the future. So you're starting in one place and you want to get here. What gets you through that whole section in the middle? Values is what gets you there. So the idea of values is what is important to your small business. What guides the direction of your work. So think about things that are important to you for your small business. This could be things like maybe you are very interested in making sure that you have a sustainable packaging setup for your small business. If creating sustainable products is important to you, then you'll make sure that's part of your values. So that way every decision that you make goes along with those values. If being very customer-centric is important to you, you'll make sure that you put extra time and energy into any contact that you have with your customers. Maybe you have extended hours for them to contact you. Maybe you have more options for them to contact you. Think about the things that are important to you and that are key to you, and that's what your values will be for your business. This also goes along with the culture of a business. So if you've worked for different companies before, you'll know that every time you work for a different company, each has their own kind of feeling when you work for them. You know, I worked for multiple different companies, and without naming names, sometimes you work for a company that's more interested in the bottom line, and you know, they're not exactly customer centric or exactly employee centric. So they may, not invest a lot in the training or the time or overtime or salaries for their employees, that type of thing. So, if you are really interested in your customers, you will make changes along that. Your culture should reflect that. So what your values are really important, especially later on as you're adding more people to your business. You're going to need extra help, and you want to make sure that you keep the values of your business consistent, because what you have in your head for how you want your business to run, as you expand and as you grow over time, when you bring people in, you want them to understand who you are, what your business is, and what's important to you. So that's really why values are so important. So this will tell you how your business will get there, what's it like working for your business, and the values are also the how. How does your mission get from point A to point B? So do you value a great customer experience? Do you value helping local communities? Do you want to give back a portion of your proceeds to local communities? Do you want to give your customer the best value? If things like that are important to you, then you're going to spend extra time, curating your products and making sure that you give them the best value, but also a great product. So basically, this tells your customers how you run your business and what's important to you. A lot of times when we shop a small business, it's really not just for we like their product. We also like their vision. We like their mission. We like their values. We're all about supporting businesses that kind of align with our own values. So if you are, the type of person who wants to work with a kind business or, purchase from a kind business, you're going to choose someone that, has those same type of values, that gives back to the community, that invests in people that you think need extra help, or that takes the extra time to be kind to their employees and their customers as well. Let's talk about some examples for your values. So some great examples are things like Amazon. I'm just using that because Amazon, I feel like everyone's pretty familiar with how they run their business. Customer obsession rather than competitor focus. I think that is super key. Especially if, when you're starting a small business, it's easy to focus on what everybody else is doing. You can't do that. You really have to focus on what you're doing and what value you're providing. They also say passion for invention, commitment to operational excellence, and long-term thinking. So those are values, those are things that they drive into their employees and that they want to provide to their customers. Nike, they have theirs set as community, sustainability, diversity, and social responsibility. And I do think that's true. They have a lot of programs that they've done and a lot of advertisements that they've done, things that they've worked on that all kind of embody those different values as well. Let's talk about your vision. So we've talked about mission, we've talked about values, and vision is the long-term goals that you have for your business. So imagine your business in the future, 5 to 10 years in the future. The reason that most people say 5 to 10 years in the future is because you're thinking about after you've already been established. Once you have a good feel for where your business is at and it's successful and it's thriving, where do you want to go? What is it that you're thinking about? And it kind of seems silly sometimes when you're starting a small business, you're just thinking about, I want to make beautiful things and sell them, and I don't understand why I have to think so far in the future. You may have to think about things far in the future because it helps inform the steps that you're taking now. So if you have a mission, you know where you're starting, you know where your current goals are. If you know what your values are, you know how you're going to get there and what actions you'll take to create that. But if you know your vision, you can make sure that every step that you take along the way is aligned with the goals that you have ultimately. So that's one reason that is so important to have a vision, is it helps you to think not only short term but long term. And a lot of business decisions aren't about the small immediate impacts that we get. Over time, when you're building on something, you'll see it pay off, but it just takes time to happen. So that's why it's so important to get there with a vision. So the vision is the where. The vision is the roadmap for your business and what direction you're going to travel, what path you're going to be on. Some examples of this is Tesla says that their vision is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And I definitely think that they've made a huge impact on that, especially with a lot of people are finding themselves more likely to purchase an electric car. So I think that they're doing great along that vision. Nike's they want to see a world where everybody is an athlete, and it's not just about being a pro athlete. They're talking about just everybody celebrating the joy of movement. So and it becoming a daily habit to have movement. So thinking about your vision, they're basically goals that you want to have. There are goals that are achievable, but they also can be goals that are a little bit more broad. So it gives you a direction of where to head. So maybe thinking about, as a small business, if you're a crafter, think about what your current goals are. Maybe your current goals are, I want to make enough so that I can invest in something specifically, or I want to make enough that I can pay my house bill. I want to make enough that I can create this as a full-time income for myself. Those are great goals to have. You could have goals that are related to your customers, goals that are related to, all sorts of different things. But if you think about your vision will be further down the line, and it's more about, where you want to head. So in the future, is if you had that pottery business that you were thinking about, would you like to be the biggest pottery business in your location? Would you like to be the most recognized for having very artistic qualities? I mean, maybe you want to be well known for creating something that's brand new, or being the best at something. There's so many different things that you could do, and it really just depends on what your personal goals are. So that's why the mission, the values, and the vision, they're extremely, extremely personal. So we're now to the action steps of your small business. This is the part where you're going to be writing as we're going along. Before we get started on this, I really do want to emphasize to you that there are no right or wrong answers as we're going along. This is a part where we're going to be dreaming and brainstorming about your business. So really allow yourself to be open to different ideas, and sometimes when you're just being creative and allowing yourself to think and really put that energy in a positive way towards it without telling an idea that it's a bad idea right away, you'll give yourself more creativity, and you might find that you have the answer that you've been looking for that way. So feel free to just write down whatever it is that comes to your brain, and we'll go ahead and run through the different questions here. So let's get started with some of the first questions. We're going to be talking about your mission statement. So the first thing is, who are you and what do you like to do? So this can be really broad. I found it very difficult when I was first starting my YouTube channel. I started it for fun, and I really had a hard time narrowing down what I wanted to talk about or do or make videos on. And I kind of stumbled into it just because I found I had a passion and a love for not only teaching, but DIY and business. I always have loved marketing and business, and so that's another reason that this series is beginning. So think about it. What is it that you love to do, and what makes you unique? What is something that you like to create and that is unique to you, and that you think you would turn into a business and still love doing it? So that's really important. Just write down some different answers related to that. And then we're going to be talking about what are your current goals. So when you're thinking about starting a small business, usually you have a goal in your head of, I want to make, X number of income. I want to sell X number of things. I want to create this many items. I want to go to a small business crafting event, and I want to sell out my whole table. What kinds of goals do you have for your small business? And we're going to be talking about them in the present moment. So where you're at right now, what kind of goals do you have for your small business? Is it just getting a website running and have your items on a small business? Is it getting started with Etsy? Is it creating things on Facebook and selling them on Marketplace? Is it creating full-time income? There's so many different goals that you can have, and there's no right or wrong answer. Maybe it's just to be the most creative you've ever been in your life, or maybe it's just to bring a smile to someone's face when they see what you've created. So think about the things that inspire you and that you're passionate about, and what goals you have related to them, and go ahead and write some of those down. We're going to be talking about the why as well. Why is your business here? What is it that's important to you, and why are you creating it? What are you passionate about? So I gave you a large area to write this in because I feel like a lot of us have more than one passion. I think that in a well-rounded life, there may be a lot of things that you really enjoy and you love. So, maybe you love crafting wreaths, but you also love hand-making pottery, or maybe you love creating jewelry or cards, or, in a craft business, there's a lot of variations that are possible. So think about things that you love, that you're passionate about. Maybe it's not just craft related. Maybe you're passionate about helping other small business owners. Maybe you want to give a portion of your proceeds back to cancer research. Think about people who inspire you in life, and also things that have inspired you in life, and kind of write those down so you can kind of build those into your business. I find that you get more successful when you put more things that you're passionate about straight into your business. Now let's talk about your vision statement. What's right for you and your business? So think ahead 5 to 10 years and ask yourself, where do I want to be with my business in 5 to 10 years? Are you going to still stay locally? Do you want to be a statewide type of business? Are you thinking nationally, globally? How far do you want your business to grow, and in what ways do you want it to grow? Do you want it to move from maybe creating handmade jewelry to creating a whole line of apparel? There's so many different options that you can do. So allow yourself to dream. Really think about, I'm doing this and I would love to build it into this. So these are the different things that you can write down and really expand and kind of give yourself the ability to think ahead a little bit, because you'll find yourself taking the right steps to hit those goals that you have if you go ahead and you write them down and you put them out there in the world. Say, I want to head this direction. This is where I'm going. And often your actions and the people around you, your customers, will help support those as well too. So let's talk about some action steps that you can take as well. We're going to talk about starting a Pinterest board. So it might seem kind of odd to start a Pinterest board when you're just getting started, but I find this super, super helpful. This is something I've done, and it really helped me to get a vision for where I want to head for the future. So create a private Pinterest board that's really all about what inspires you. If you're not sure what you want your small business to look like, what type of aesthetic you have, this is a great way to kind of define it. So a lot of times we'll respond visually to something if we see it, and we'll be like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I love this type of font. I love this color scheme. I love these textures. I love these patterns. So give yourself the ability to start a private Pinterest board so that nobody else can judge it. It's literally just things that inspire you. Start browsing Pinterest and picking things that inspire you and just putting them on this private board. So what inspires you? Do you notice that there's things like certain colors that you enjoy? Do you like specific types of crafts? Maybe you're a Dollar Tree crafter and you find yourself constantly pulling different examples of Dollar Tree crafts, and you want to put them on your Pinterest board because maybe your business is centered around the idea of using inexpensive materials and creating something beautiful and affordable. There's a lot of businesses that start out with very inexpensive products, and then they add creativity to it to create something that is wonderful and looks more expensive than it is starting out. So then you can, after you've spent some time doing this, I would give yourself a couple weeks really working on this, where you're just browsing Pinterest and grabbing things that remind you of what it is that you like to create, of things that inspire you, of colors that inspire you, and then go back and you can start evaluating this. So do you find yourself inspired by specific types of crafts? Is there a theme to things that you like to create? Do you like lots of patterns or details? Do you have more of a simplistic style? And it's all about being unique. So what is it that really makes you happy and makes you excited to create? Because if you get in that right headspace of these are the things that I enjoy and that I love creating, then you're not going to find yourself struggling with inspiration. So really think about it that way. It'll give you a great look at what your style is and the direction that you want to head, and it helps you to market your business later on. We'll talk about that in later videos. But this is just the planning phase, and it really will help you to hone down who you are and what your aesthetic is. So we're going to talk about what colors inspire you. So go ahead and write down some different colors that inspire you. Feel free to come back and use this part later too as well. Maybe you want to start your Pinterest board and work on it for a while, and then go back and evaluate it. Ask yourself, what colors do I find as inspirational? Maybe you see yourself with a lot of mint and peach. Maybe you see yourself with a lot of black and white. Maybe you love neutrals. Maybe you love fun pops of neon. So those will help you to head in the right direction for your business. And then ask yourself, what styles or themes inspire you as well? There's a ton of things that are trendy. Don't worry about following the trends, guys. I know this is like a lot of us think about when you're creating a business. You want to make sure that you're going to choose something that's popular, that will get picked up, and there is a space for that in your business. But if you make your whole business around what's currently trendy, you probably won't have longevity. So think about what inspires you overall, and you can make a few items related to things that are trendy, but really you want to have a focus in a direction that is particularly unique to you. So also ask yourself, what types of DIYs inspire yourself? If you could create anything, what would it be? I think this is so important. A lot of times we have something in our head, like, I would really love to make this, and we never do because we feel a little intimidated by it, or maybe it's kind of this pipe dream that we have for further down the road. But really think about, I love this and I would love to get to that point where I'm making this, but I don't have the skills yet, or maybe I don't have the tools yet, or I don't have the supplies yet. That's okay. Put it down, and maybe eventually you transition into something where you're starting to create things. So maybe you start out with a Cricut business and you want to make tumblers, but you don't have the skills yet with resin and epoxy and how you spin it with the tumblers and getting the right layers and all of that. That's okay. Write it down, and eventually you can start transitioning that information into, this is a goal of mine and I will start incorporating it into my business over time. Let's talk about the next action step, which is, who is my customer and is there a need? So when you're starting your small business, it really is such a personal journey, and we can often forget when we're starting our small business, who are we creating this for? So who is your ideal customer? And a lot of times when you're thinking about when you're what you're creating, there's a specific market for what you're creating. So maybe you're creating something like bohemian decor. You might find that people from a certain demographic market really are drawn to bohemian decor. Maybe it's people from the ages of, say, 25 to 64. I don't know. Think about who it is that fits that demographic, and like what you like to create, and who is it that is going to be the most helped by what you're creating there. So if you're not sure, think about if your products meet a need. So if you're creating first day of school shirts, maybe you have a Cricut business and you're creating shirts for to celebrate the kids who are going back to school, or you're creating items for different holidays or events. Those will really be tied into things like, if you're doing first day of school shirts, that will impact your buyers who are probably parents or maybe grandparents and you want to buy those shirts for their kids or their grandkids. If you're doing items for events, maybe you're going to be looking for event planners or people who are getting married, or things related to that. So you're going to be thinking about your customer in that specific moment. So what you're going to be creating, who is this for, and how does this add value to their life? So what age are they? What types of products do they like to buy? Take a look at who's drawn to what you create. So if you have any type of social media channels, you may already know who it is that are your biggest fans, who are your biggest customers. And those are the people that you really want to make sure that you are creating things that are of value to them specifically. So we're going to talk about who is drawn to your work and who would you like to benefit, how would you like to make their life better. So for me, for this series, I'm really creating this for people who are getting started with small businesses, who are small business entrepreneurs, maybe who have a small business but really want to grow it and be successful. So really think about how you can add value to their life and make their life better with what you're doing. Maybe it's something as simple as you make a beautiful wreath, and every time they come home and they open that door, when they get to their front door, they're just really, it brings a smile to their face. And it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can just be like, I want to make people smile. I want to make people happy when they see my products. So write down some different ideas. There are no right or wrong answers. So just write freely and really think about what's important to you and what you would like to do to improve the life of your customer. We're going to talk about the next action step, which is, what do you already know? So this is something that I know that I struggled with specifically, and that is when you're starting a small business, you're already immediately thinking about what you don't know. How do I price my items? How do I get good pictures? Where do I sell them? Do I go to markets? Do I use Etsy? Things like that. Those are very practical questions and things we definitely want to cover in this series. But think about, what do you already know? There's a lot of things that you probably already know and skills that you already have that are transferable to what you're going to do right now. So really take a moment and evaluate what it is that you're starting out with already and that you have to work with, because I think it will help you feel more buoyed for success to know that you have skills already, you have tools already that you can work with. So this will give you a good foundation so you know where you're starting from as well. So are you great at making bows? Are you amazing at creating custom decals? Or do you know how to paint? Can you make jewelry? Can you refinish furniture? Are you great at building things? What is it that's amazing about you? What are the things that you already know how to do? Have you worked in customer service? Have you written product descriptions before? There's so many things that you may already have skills with. Maybe you take photos for fun. All of those skills are transferable, so make sure that you write them down. So often the skills that you're going to have already are things that you might take for granted, and they're probably going to be vital later on. So just for background my background includes customer service, and it also includes working as a copywriter. So I did a lot of work for companies where I didn't get named. I kind of worked quietly, independently for them, and created writing in their name, and it's helping me right now. So this whole workbook that we're working from here was because I've already had the skills to create that. So we're going to evaluate also what equipment, budget, and experience you have to work with. Don't worry if you don't have a ton of money to start with. Most people who are starting small businesses don't, and there are other options that you can use for funding and ways that you can work around it. So we'll talk about that more later on. So I'm going to ask you, what are your skills? So what do you know? What are skills that you have? It doesn't have to be something complex or that you've taken formal, skills. Maybe you've taken formal photography classes. If you haven't, that's okay. You can always learn. There are ways you can work around it. I've never taken a video editing class. I'm self-taught. So there are so many ways that you can create, and you don't have to have formal education for. Think about all the things that you have skills for, especially with your crafting business. So what types of crafting skills do you have? Are you awesome at making cards? Can you do floral arranging? Have you worked at event planning before? Do you have any kind of skills or background in anything specifically that might transfer to a business? Think about other jobs that you've had and the skill sets that came with that, and write those down too, because those will definitely benefit your small business. And also, what do you know? We're going to talk about what DIYs you've made. So this is something that I know that if I think about my DIY career, I've created a lot of DIYs about tons of different things. So I kind of think of myself as the jack of all trades, master of none. I have experience doing a lot of different kinds of things. So because of that, I can write down a pretty varied list. So when you're thinking about your list of DIYs that you've made, really think about maybe scroll through your phone if you take pictures of your DIYs. Maybe scroll through any place that you've documented those and really write down the different ones that you've done. Maybe it'll unlock some other skills that you haven't thought about, like maybe you've built tables before and you didn't realize that was a skill or that was something you could do. Just think about the things that you've created and how you've been creative before, and it'll open up a lot more ideas for what you can create for your business. Also, under what do you know, we're going to ask you what business tools or resources do you have currently. So do you have a phone? Do you have a computer? Do you have cameras, lighting, tools, any materials to work with for crafting? Do you have space to craft in? Do you have wrapping paper? Do you have anything that you have already that you can transfer to using for your business to get started? Write those down, and then that way you know what you have to work with to start with, and then we could talk about filling in the gaps that you don't have as we go along. Going along with what do you know, let's talk about what's your starting budget. So think about if you have any budget for buying tools, supplies, materials. Can you invest in anything specifically? And if you don't have the budget for it, don't worry. There's always ways you can work around that, or other resources that you can choose. There are things like local small business development centers that you can work with to create a business plan and get funding. We'll talk about that later in the series. But just think about first, what do you have to work with for your budget? Can you invest a little bit of money in materials? Materials is a great place to start if you don't have it already. Continuing along with the idea of what do you know, we're going to talk about, do you have any ideas for your brand? So think about if you have any ideas that you've been kind of kicking around in the back of your head for what you want your brand to look like. So do you have a business name in mind? Do you have any colors that you love? Maybe something that would be a cute logo. Maybe you have an animal for a logo. Maybe you have some colors that you're totally in love with and you want to use. Feel free to just jot those down and write them down, and we'll talk about that later as far as honing in your brand. But don't worry about considering them final right now. We're at the point that we're just brainstorming and we're really trying to be creative and think about what it is that inspires you, what motivates you, and what it is that when people see your brand that you would love them to see about you. So maybe it's colorful, maybe it's minimalistic, it can be anything that you like, but write down some different ideas, things that really call to you, and talk about more of who you are as a business. Okay, we're on to another action step, and we're going to be talking about what information do I need. So this is probably the one where you're going to have the most to write, and I totally understand because even as a small business owner right now, I'm still growing. Like, I'm still growing what I'm doing for my channel. I'm still growing what I'm doing online for my blog. It takes time, and you're always going to have something that you want to improve on. So don't worry if you don't have all the answers right away, because you're always going to have questions. It's just the nature of having a business. So writing it down is going to make it easier for you to seek out those answers and to be prepared. So your list could include things like, how do I price my crafts? Where do I sell? Where do I find the best supplies that aren't going to cost a fortune? How do I advertise my business? So we're going to go ahead and go back over these questions later as you're going, but I want you to write down some questions that you have about getting started. Just fill out some different things about things that have been sitting in the back of your head bothering you about, am I pricing things high enough? Am I pricing things low enough? Whatever it is that is related to your business that you have questions for, write those down, and that way we can seek out answers for you as we continue. Another action step is we're going to say, what items do you need to start? So think about what you'd like to create and the basic tools and supplies that you'll need. You probably already have some of it. So create your list, and you're going to go back after you've created your list of things that you need for your small business. And then you're going to write a number next to it in order of priority. And that way you can really go back and prioritize as you get the income from selling other items that you can invest back into your business. So for me, right now, I know that for my small business, what I want to do next is invest in a boom mic. So I want to have a microphone that hangs down a little bit so that way you guys can really hear me better. I'm currently filming on my phone right now. So there are things that I really want to invest in and upgrade over time. And you will always have things that you're going to be investing in. But what we're going to talk about is, what do you need to start? So where are you at right now? You know what you already have. What is it that you need to be able to start your process? So considering things like technical equipment, do you need a phone? Do you need a computer? Do you need any software or a website? Do you need any tools or materials? Any packaging materials for your items as well? So you may not need as much as you think, but it's always good to have a full list so that way you know. So just go ahead and write down the different things that you think that you might need for your business, and then we'll go ahead and you can order it later in order of importance. So when I have money, I'm going to buy this first and then this. Sometimes it helps to have a list. That way you can really reference it later as you have time, and you don't have to take up as much brain space remembering things like that. Writing it down really does help for those. The next action step is find people who motivate you. This is so important. Business speaker Jim Rohn once said, he was quoted as saying, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you think about that, who is it that's in your life? Or do you have a lot of people that help you and support you to grow your small business? If you want to be a small business owner, or you are a small business owner, how much time are you spending with people that help you to create your small business and to grow and to be motivated? A big thing of that is being motivated. And a lot of times we're just living our day-to-day life, and we may not know a lot of people who are in that industry or who have information related to that. So this is where it's important to spend some of your time. Even though we have such limited time, spend a little bit of your time seeking out people who help motivate you and inspire you. So watch their media, see what they're doing that works and doesn't work, and learn from them. That's so important. And also think about not comparing yourself, because even if you find someone who has a small business doing exactly what you want to do and they're super successful at it, remember that you're at a different part in your journey that they are. They may be 5 years in your future right now, and if you compare yourself to where they are now and where you're at, it can be kind of defeating. You can take that really personally and not be able to succeed because of it. So think of them as inspiration, but not as a direct representation of where you're supposed to be right at this moment. So search for leaders in your industry as well. So if you love to crochet, find people who have blogs about crocheting, or who do videos about crocheting, or who are just amazing and create books all about different patterns and things related to that, and learn from them. So you can also search for people who are successful in areas that you want to improve on. I've done this with video editing. I watch different channels related to video editing so that I can improve on my skills for that. Whenever you find yourself deficient in something that you feel like you need to be successful, don't be afraid to put yourself out there a little bit and try to learn about that from other people who are willing to share that kind of information. And for me, I find it super helpful to be in a community of people who are doing like-minded type of work as well. So find other small business owners. You guys can also cross-promote each other later. This is super helpful for when you're doing marketing for your business. But if you have other people that you want to talk to them about small business and really get tips from people who are in the middle of it too, the same way that you are, I definitely recommend checking out my craft business support group. There'll be a link to it in the description box below for you as well. But feel free to seek out people and groups that motivate you and inspire you. So write down who motivates you. Sometimes it might help also to look at business motivational speakers because they really do encourage you to just get started and not be afraid to take that first step. And sometimes you just need someone to say, hey, you can do this, you can handle it. And so if you don't have someone in your life who's telling you that, I'm here, I'm telling you, do it. You can do it. I believe in you. And I think that you should take that step. You know, there's nothing lost if you've never tried, you know. It's better to try and do something that you were really passionate about. So if you finish this, give yourself a pat on the back. This is a ton of information, and most small businesses spend at least a few weeks working on all of this information for their business plan before they get started on, you know, really implementing it. So don't be afraid to take some time and really think about it. You may be reevaluating this over time as you go and refining it, and that's completely fine. It's really all about keeping this in the back of your mind as you're building your business. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that you receive notifications for all this future content for this series. Make sure also leave some questions below. Let me know what kinds of information that you would love to see in this series. And we're going to be discussing all of your questions. So leave a question that you're interested in knowing below, so that way I can make sure I hit it in this series. And if you're not part of my Facebook group, feel free to join it as well. It's in the description box and it's super helpful. It's a great resource for finding other people who are like-minded, and you guys can help cross-promote each other as well. So I hope you enjoyed this series, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.